Join me as we learn Chitas, the Chumash, together for Thursday, Parashat Shemos, the fifth Torah reading in Parashat Shemos. Yesterday we learned where Moshe encounters God by the burning bush. He sees this amazing sight where the bush is burning, but it's not being consumed. God calls him from the bush, tells him to remove his shoes, and tells him to go to Pharaoh and tell the Jewish people that they will be going out of Egypt. Moshe asks, how should I dress and how should I address the Jewish people toward saying who you are, where you're from? And Moshe tells them, God tells Moshe to tell the Jewish people that it's Ehyeh, God that was with them, will take them out of this exile. Today, God continues to tell Moshe the instructions of how he should tell Pharaoh, who he should collect to go with him to Pharaoh, and the conversation of Moshe's negotiations back and forth with God. Verse 16, chapter 3. Lech vasafta ziknei Yisrael. God tells Moshe now, go and gather the Jewish people, gather the elders of the Israelites. V'amarta aleim, and you should tell them, Hashem Elokei Aviseichem, the God of your forefathers, Nirei Elai, appear to me. Elokei Avram, the God of Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, the God of Yitzchak, Yaakov, and the God of Yitzchak and Yaakov. Lamer saying, he said to me, Pokoid Pokadati, God has remembered you. I have indeed remembered you. Eschem you ve'esayu lachem b'Mitzrayim, and what is being done to you in Egypt. As Ziknei Yisrael, who are these elders? Ham yuchadim liyeshiva. These were this very special. That means whenever there was a gathering, they were the ones that people got together to ask them for advice and to adjudicate differences of opinion of what would happen. If you may say skenim stam, maybe it just means older people. How would Moshe go collect? Because 600,000 of the older people. So it must be we're talking about people that were known as the elders of the town, elders of the Jewish people, that they were considered the important ones amongst them, and that's who he was collecting. Verse 17, and I have declared, Allah eschem, I will bring you up, from the affliction of Egypt, from the affliction of Egypt, to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the Amorites, Perizzites, the Hivi and the Hivites, the Yevusi and the Jebusites, to bring you to a land that flows with milk and honey. Verse 18. They will heed your voice. Uvasa, and you would come. Ata v'ziknei Yisrael, you and the elders of the Jewish people. V'melech Mitzrayim, to the king of Egypt. V'amarta me'lav, and you will tell the king of Egypt. Hashem Elokei Ivrim, the God of the Hebrews. Nikra aleinu, appear to us. V'ata, and now neilchana, let us now go. Let us make a journey of derech shleishas yamim, for a 3-day journey, Bamidbar, in the desert, v'nizbechal Hashem Elokeinu, so we can bring sacrifices to God, our God. Verse 18, v'shamu l'keilecha, me'aleim, on their own. You're not going to have to convince them to listen to you. Once you speak to them in this type of language, v'shamu l'keilecha, immediately they will listen to you. Shekvar siman masr b'yadam. There's already a sign given from one generation to the next. Yaakov Yosef, from Yaakov to Yosef, Shabaloshin Zeh, when God uses the terminology of Poket Pakadati, I have remembered you, Heim Nigolim, that they're going to come out of exile. We see this that Yaakov Amarlem Balikim Pakedif Kedeschem. Yaakov said that God will remember you. Yosef Amarlem, Yosef before his passing said the same terminology, Pakedif Kedelikim Eschem, that God will remember you. Malakeya Ivrim, the God of the Hebrews, Remez Eser Makes. Over here, if you notice that there's a double Yud, Ha-Ivriyim. This is alluding to the 10 plagues that will come on the Egyptians. Nikra aleinu, lashem mikra, chanced upon us, appear to us. V'chein, we find this in other places, vayikar alikim v'nechi yikarebai, a nikra meitei haloim. Meaning that we find that God appeared, the word vayikra, nikra means to appear. Verse 19. V'ani yodaiti, and I'm telling you now, I know, ki eloyetein eschem elach Mitzrayim, that the king of Egypt will not allow you to go. Lahalich, to go, not until I perform and I exercise a strong hand of making miracles, will he then let you go. Verse 19, Rashi, meaning, what does this mean? That if I don't show him my strong hand, then he's not going to send you. That until I show him my miracles and my strong hand, he's not going to allow you to go. La yitain, he's not going to allow. La yishpeik, comes from the terminology as the Unkla says, not allowing. Ukemoy al kainlin santicha, therefore I did not let you go. We find this in other places as well, when he brings in the previous verses by Avimelech, that God didn't let you. So if you see the words nisano, it doesn't mean literally to give, means to allow. All of them find to give, but giving permission. Yesh mefarshim, those that explain as well. V'loy biyad chazaka, when it talks with his great arm. V'loy b'shvil sheyadi chazaka. Not that the interpretation means that until God shows him miracles, but it's referring to Pharaoh. That not because of Pharaoh's strong hand, meaning that the very fact that Pharaoh will refuse, it's not because he is strong, because you'll see that his refusing is because he thinks he's relying that he's so strong and all-powerful, because you'll notice that from the moment that I will come to him, I will wipe out Mitzrayim, not because he has strong arm. This was said in the name of Rabbi Yaakov ben Menachem. This is a different interpretation. This is the way the Targum explains it as well. Verse 20. V'shalachti es yadi, and I will send my hand. So I will stretch forth my hand. V'kesius Mitzrayim, and I will strike Egypt. B'chol nifla'isa, with all my wondrous deeds. Asher esa b'kirba, that I will do amongst them. And only afterwards Yishalach Eschem will he send to you. Meaning, it's not because of his own might, it's only as soon as he sees the great miracles that happen, that's when he's going to allow them to go. 21. And I will put I will make the people favorable in the eyes of the Egyptians. Asher Esa b'kirpait, that I will do amongst them v'hayu, and will be that when the Jewish people leave Egypt, they will not go empty-handed. What's going to happen? Verse 22. Every woman shall request objects, migaras beisa, from her neighbor, and from the woman whose house she lodges in. Klei chesef, they're going to ask silver vessels, klei zav, and gold, smolis, and clothing. V'samtem al b'neichem al b'neisechem, and you will place all these things on your sons and on your daughters. V'nitzaltem es Mitzrayim, and you will thus empty out Egypt. Rashi, verse 22. Migoras beisa. What does it mean, migoras beisa? They used to live together. That means there were neighbors, and then there were people that lived in the same home. You'll ask from the woman that lives in the same home with you. V'nitzaltam, what does it mean? You will save. Literally, nitzaltam means save. But over here, you're going to empty it out. We find it later on in chapter 12, when the Jewish people left. It uses the same terminology, that they emptied out Egypt. It's edyam, that the Jewish people emptied out everything there. And even after the serving of the golden calf, that the Jewish people were taken off their crowns, it also uses that terminology that God emptied their crown from them. Rashi explains why this word, v'nitzaltam, comes to mean empty. V'hanun ba'yisoid, the nun, which is part of the root word, u'menachem, the menachem and Tzruk Chibur Machberes, he explains tzadi im, about the letter tzaddik with other words that go with it. Vayatzel elikim es miknei avichem, then God saved your cattle. Asher hitzil elikim, that he saved from our father. And Rashi over here, however, says that in this grammar I disagree with Menachem. He doesn't think that the nun is from the root word because it has a chirik in it. It doesn't say what they will do, but something that already happened. And he brings examples to this. And he explains and he brings these different terminology where they mean the past, not what's going to happen. Every nun that comes into a word which is only there temporarily, but then not always is the nun there. For example, he gives the following words: it says what a person will do, an activity that will come, the action that will come from it. You're always going to have the nekuda b'shva b'chatav kegoyin unisasam es avichem. Therefore, Rashi says in this case, whenever I see nekuda b'chirik min hayisaiti, it is from the root word. V'yasaychem davar, and it is the root word which is for a noun on its own. For example, nitzul, will be saved. This is from the words which are usually used in many in hard places. For example, he says, giving different examples where this grammar would apply, and how Rashi's translation of putting the chirik on the first word makes it that it should be for the noun that's possessive on the word. Chapter 4. Vayan Moshe, and Moshe responded to Hashem. V'hei vayomer, and he said, V'hein lo yaminu bi, but they will not believe in me. V'lo yishmu b'koili, they will not listen to me. Ki yomeru l'nira lech Hashem. They'll say, God didn't appear to you. Where are you coming from? You had some fantasies or something. God never appeared to you. Vayomer elav Hashem, so God said to him, Ma ze biyadecha, what is this in your hand? Vayomer mata, and he said it's a staff. Rashi, verse 2, Ma ze biyadecha. The word maze, if you look, it's written two words as one. L'kach nichtav v'tevachas was written as one word. Lidresh, to explain. Maze shabiyotcha, what is this that you have in your hand? That the chayiv alil case. Really, you should get in trouble for this. You should get lashes. Shechashad the b'ksherim. You accused the innocent. You accuse the Jewish people, saying they won't listen to you. The simple interpretation is it's like somebody that tells his friend, you agree that this in front of you is a stone? Amarle said, yeah. Amarle said to him, I didn't say it's an 8. So I'm going to make the stone into a piece of wood. That means what you thought is one thing, I'm going to make it into something else. So it's like somebody having a negotiation or talking to his friend. What's that you got in your hand? You're going to say it's one thing, and I'm going to show you it's something else, as we see from the following verses. Verse 3. And God says to Moshe, Hashlicheu arza, throw it to the ground. Vayashlicheu arza, and he threw it on the ground. Really, you deserve to be struck with it, but we're going to tell you to throw it on the ground. Vayila nachash, and it became into a snake, turned into a snake. Vayonos Moshe mipanev, and Moshe fled from it. Rashi, verse 3. Vayila nachash, why did God choose that it should be a snake? Ramaz loy. He was alluding to the fact, Shasipar Lashon Hara al Yisrael, that he said gossip, he said ill, then bad words about the Jewish people. And V'chtaf asum nasi shal nachash, and he was acting as the nachash, the original snake, who spoke ill as well. And therefore, he shows them, look, you are behaving like the nachash. Verse 4, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe, and God said to Moshe, Shlach yodcha, reach out to it, ve'echiz biznavei, and grab onto its tail. Vayishlach yodei, and Moshe reached out, vayechazak b'y, and held onto it, vayhilamata b'kapai, and it turned into a staff into his hand. Verse 4, Vayechazak b'y, Lashon achiza means to hold on. V'harba yesh b'mikra, there's other terminologies where you find this as well. For example, Vayachaziku anoshim b'yodei, and the angels held on to him. This was earlier on in the book of Genesis. V'echziku b'mavushav, v'echzakta b'skane, koloshin chizu kadavik lebei, it's Lashon achiza. Anytime you have the word Vayechazak, and afterwards it has boy, means that they're holding on to something of it. Verse 5. Laman yaminu. God said this is that the Jewish people will believe. Hashem, the God appeared to, the God of the fathers, Avram, the God of Avram, Yitzchak, the God of Yitzchak, Yaakov, and the God of Yaakov. Verse 6. Now God gives Moshe further signs and instructions. Another thing. Put your hand in your bosom. And he put his hand in, and he took it out, and his hand became afflicted with tsaras. It was white as snow, and that is because, again, for somebody who speaks slander, gets tsaras. Over here, same happened to Moshe. The way that usually when people have leprosy, it becomes white. As we find it's discussed in the book of leprosy, in the book of Leviticus about the laws of leprosy, that if it becomes white, so too, because he was alluding to the fact that Moshe spoke ill against the Jewish people, he slandered them by saying they wouldn't listen. Because of that, he was momentarily punished with zaras, Like Miriam was also punished later on with Saras, al Lashon Hara, because of slander. Verse 7. And God tells him, now put your hand back in your bosom, and he returned his hand back. And he took it out, and he withdrew it. And now it resumed to have the appearance of skin. Verse 7, from here we learn, from here we learn that when God does something good, it comes quicker than something which is not good, within a punishment. When initially he took it out, he doesn't say out of his bosom, he just took it out. Now over here it says, as soon as he put it in, he took it right away out, and it tells us that it returned quickly back to normal flesh. Verse 8, Torah continues, God tells Moshe, now, if they do not believe you, they will not heed to the first miraculous event that happened. They'll believe to the later one that you showed them as well. That means the first one about the snake, and the second one concerning about the tzaras. You may ask, why should they believe the later one over the earlier one? If you will tell them, you know, that because I slandered you, I got tzaras, because I said slander against you, they'll believe. Why? Because they knew about this. Because any person who was associated with anything bad was plagued with saras. For example, Pari Avimelech. Previous, so they know history, they know stories of the past, and they'll hear, okay, snakes they haven't heard about. So you'll tell them the snake, they won't believe them. You tell them, listen here, I got tzaras because of you. Then they'll know that this is actually from God because they see that this is something that happened in the past, and previously people have already been punished in such a method. So therefore, they'll know that this is something that happens as well. Verse 9. And if they do not believe in even in these two signs, they will not still not heed your voice. And you'll take from water of the Nile River, and you'll pour it out on the dry land. And the water that you took from the Nile River will turn to blood when it's poured on the dry ground. Rashi, verse 9, he was alluding to the fact that the first plague, they are going to be punished from their own God. Because when God punishes the non-Jews, he starts with their God first. Because the Egyptians would serve the Nile River as their God, because it would give them life. And later on, God changes it to blood. Over here, the word vahayu is found twice. Vahayu shtei pamim. It seems the reason is, if it only would have said once, if the water that you take from the river will become dry, it will become blood on dry land. I would think that while he's still holding it, it becomes blood. But when he puts them, therefore, when he pours them onto the dry land, it'll stay the way it was, which is blood. Over here now, if you learn the verse properly, it's teaching us, it only will become blood once it hits the dry land. In his hand will be water. Once it hits the dry land, then it will become blood. Now Moshe tries to convince God why he again should not be the one to speak to the Jewish people. Moshe, goes over a full week that God tries to convince Moshe to take the people out of Egypt, and Moshe is continually reluctant to take this greater position. And over here he says as follows: Moshe says to Hashem, Bi Adonai, Loi ish dvarim anochi, please God, I beg you, I am not a man of words. Gam itmil, not from yesterday, Gam shilshem, not from the day before, Gami oz dabercha lavdecha, even from the time you spoke to your servant, which was a week ago. Kichvad peh, I stammer, I have a speech impediment. Uchvad loshen anoichi, and I'm not swift of the tongue. Rashi, verse 10, Gam mitmoil, libmadnu, over here the pasuk is telling us, Shekol shiva ya mim haya HaKadosh Baruch Hu mefatas Moshe, that for 7 days God was trying to convince Moshe, Basnev, seemingly standing while he was standing in front of the burning bush, Leilach b'shluchusay, that he should go. That's why we see this from the words mitmoil mishilshem yazdabrecha regimul. So that's 3 days. 3 days are mentioned here. Ushloisha gamin, and the 3 times that it says gamit moil, gamin shilshem, gamiaz ribuyim heim. They're coming to tell me that there's extra days as well. So you have 6. And he's standing on the 7th day. When he told him, please send somebody else. Until God got upset at him that he was refusing the kibbul love, and then he finally accepted the job to do it. Why was he continuously to be reluctant to take it? Because he did not want to take a job to go greater than his brother Aaron Achiv who was older than him. The Navi Hayan, he was a prophet, as we'll see later on. He calls him Aaron the prophet. Shenemer, as it says, have I revealed to your father's home while he was in Egypt? And who did he reveal himself to? That was to Aaron. Also later on, we see this in another place as well, that God says, I've made known to them in Egypt, and I told them a man who was able to see the fact that you had these disgusting idols with you. For that prophecy, who was it said to? La'ari Nemra was said to Aaron. That's the words that God says. Nigle niglesi, I've revealed to you. Chvad peh, what does it mean? That he has a speech impediment? I speak difficultly. In the words of the Old French, blabo. God responds to this reluctancy as well. Vayomer, and God says to Moshe, Vayomer Hashem Elov, and God says to me, Sam Pel Adam, who gave a man a mouth? Lo miyasam ilaim, and who makes him dumb that he's not able to speak? Uipikeach, or deaf, or iver, or blind, or sighted, or blind. Halo yanichi Hashem, I am God. Rashi, mi sampe. Over here, he was alluding to the events that happened to Moshe's life. Who gave you the ability to speak when Pharaoh took you and said, hey, why you killed that Egyptian? And you had to be able to say your arguments. That means you're able to speak then. God helped you speak. Who made Pharaoh that he wasn't able to speak? That he wasn't desperate or work really hard to kill you. That's Misharsav. And he made his servants Chareshim deaf, Shalishamu, that they did not hear, but when he told them to kill you. And those people that were in charge of killing you, who made them blind, they didn't see when you ran off the stage. And you were able to save yourself. Is that not I? My name God helped you throughout your own pain and suffering in your life, saved your life. You yourself saw that you were saved in all these instances. Verse 12, now go. I will be with your mouth. And I will tell you what to speak. Verse 13. But Moshe responds. And Moshe says, please God, I beg you, please send whom you usually send. Aaron, the prophet, who's older than me, send him. Biyad tishlach, Yud Gimel. Biyad mishata ragil shleach. Send the person you usually send. Who Aaron, this is Aaron. Davar acher, another interpretation is Biyad acher shetirtza l'shleach. Send somebody who eventually is going to actually bring them into the land of Israel. I'm not going to be the one to bring them into the land of Israel. You have a lot of people that are better suited for this. Some explain, as the Rebbe explains over here, when Moshe was telling God, I want this to be the final redemption. Don't allow me just to take the Jewish people out of exile. Let this be Yatishlach, that Eliyahu and Mashiach should already take them out of this exile, and should be only one exile, and this should already bring about the ultimate redemption. However, God got angry at Moshe with this. And he said, Aaron, is not your brother Aaron the Levite. Yodaiti, I know Kidaber, who that he will be the one that will certainly speak. He will be setting out to meet you. and he will see you, the samach baliboy, and he will be very excited. Vayicharaf, Rashi says, Rabbi Shua ben Karcha says, Kol chadanavsha b'teirei yisrael. Anytime we find the word that God get upset, got angry, it makes an impact. But over here, we don't see the impact. We don't even see a punishment that Moshe got because of that anger. Omer le Rabbi Yosi. So Rabbi Yosi said, and this one also we see the impact that happened to Moshe. Haloi, because it says, Aaron, your brother the Levi. Aaron was supposed to be the Levite and not the Kohen. And you were supposed to be the Kohen. But from now, it's not going to be that way. He's going to be the Kohen. And you're going to be the Levi. As it says, Moshe, his children will all be Levites. He's coming to greet you. You're going to go back to your father-in-law, get permission to go to Egypt, and then he's going to come and greet you. Not the way you think, oh, Aaron's going to be upset because I got a greater position. Because of that, Aaron was merited for the beautiful ornament of the breastplate that was on his heart because of the love that he showed for his brother, not the jealousy. Interestingly enough, something we see a contrast from Aaron and Moshe to all the other brothers that we see throughout history up until now. If you look throughout history, there were always debates between brothers, disputes, I should say, or animosity that existed, and how they dealt with it. Cain and Abel, unfortunately, Cain killed Abel. Then you have Yitzchak and Yishmael. Yishmael went off, but they still didn't get along. Yaakov and Esav, he took from them the blessings. They were fighting with each other. They didn't kill each other yet, but they still didn't get along as well. Yosef and his brothers, they didn't get along. They made a peace, and as well, yes, they got along, but still there was a certain level of distrust that was there. Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim got the blessing over Manasseh. He acknowledged it, but you don't see that Ephraim says, fine, Manasseh, you can go along with it. Finally, in our book of Exodus, where we see Moshe and Aaron, Moshe getting a greater position than Aaron, though he's younger than him, and not only does Aaron not have any mistrust or animosity or hatred towards it, but on the contrary, the Torah points out, V'samach, he was excited and he was happy for his brother's benefit. Verse 15. V'dibarte love, you will speak to him, v'samta es hadvarim befiv, and you will put the words in his mouth. V'anoichi eye in picha, and I will be with his mouth and your mouth. V'yirisi v'impiu, and with in his mouth. V'yirisi eschem, and I will instruct you. Es asher tasun, what you should do. Verse 16. V'dibar hu l'chalaham, and he will speak to the people for you. And he will serve as your mouth. And you will be for him his mentor. Meaning you will be like his God. You will tell him directly what to speak, what I said, and so on. Verse 16, Rashi, Bishvilcha, for you. Yedaber Elam will speak to the people. This will prove that any time you have the word which is next to the word dibur, ein kulam lashin alheim. They mean about or to for. He'll be like your interpreter. Because you complain that you have a speech impediment, so he'll explain it. As a mentor, what to say and how to say it. Verse 17. And this staff you will take with you, which you will perform the miraculous signs with. This concludes the 5th Torah reading for Thursday, Parshas Shemos.